Hey everyone, it's Stephanie again, and you're tuned into the review of Married at First Sight, season 10, episode 12. So first I'm going to say I hope everybody is keeping themselves safe. There's a lot going on in the world right now. Some of it is very scary, and some of it is just overwhelming. I mean, I'm pregnant, as many of you know, so there's a lot of factors that I'm thinking about, and I know a lot of people, depending on your situation, you know, you're frustrated or you're stressed out or you just have a lot going on. So just a couple of tips. You know, there's one thing to be informed, but it's another to be obsessive, and I think a lot of people get that confused, where they're like obsessed and that's their way of showing that they care. You don't have to be obsessed to care. You don't have to be obsessed to be informed. For the sake of your mental health, you want to make sure that you unplug and you do things that promote stress relief and promote just like healthy living, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, because there's enough negative stuff to combat that. Okay, so we gotta, if we look at it in terms of like scales, we really have to add some more on the positive side of the scales, because there's so much weighing on the negative side. So you know, I'm praying for everyone, and hopefully sooner than later this is less of a crisis and negatively affecting people. And I hope that we're all paying attention to all the cautionary things, not taking it too lightly, so that hopefully we can be in a different place soon. With that being said, I'm not going to run too long on this review. Last night's episode was about the couples reaffirming themselves or recommitting themselves to the marriage after 1 month, which they started a couple of seasons ago, just to kind of get a temperature gauge of where the couples are, you know, what would determine them to say no or yes on decision day, and if they wanted to continue on with the process. I really liked watching Pastor Cal and Dr. Viviana. I didn't necessarily agree with everything, depending on what couple we're talking about, but I like that they dug in deep, that they talked to them, that they brought up some of the concerns. It felt like the first real time that each individual got some significant help, and some significant like attention to their concerns with the whole marriage. And I guess I wish I would see more of that throughout the process. Maybe some of these couples wouldn't be spiraling as much as they have been. So kicking it off with Michael and Meka. Michael and Meka both reaffirmed themselves or recommitted to the marriage, or continuing the marriage. Here's the thing with Michael and Meka. They both are committed. I don't know that they're committed to each other, but they're committed to being married. And they're hopeful that there's something there. But I still, you know, and I continue to say it every week, I still get a grave disconnect from them. I don't think they have any chemistry. I think there's a lot of damage done at the beginning. There's still some room for improvement on both of their ends, which continue to get in the way. You know, Meka is really thrown off by the situation that happened at the beginning, and so it's hard for her to recover. And I like that Dr. Viviana said, you know, be a soft place for him to land. I get her frustrations, and she has every right to be frustrated. But also, if you continue to move on with the relationship, then there has to be a change in you that might help the other person change. You can't dictate or control if they change, but there has to be something that is open and accepting enough where that person might want to be better. Meka's disposition is just never pleasant. I saw her light up when the girls had dinner last night. That's the first time she really lights up. She only lights up with them. She never lights up with him. So it's either like try a little bit more or just don't be with him. And I really don't see Meka being attracted to him. I think she's over it. She questions everything she says, which I get it. Like at this point, if Michael's telling me the sky's blue, I'm gonna have to look up and check. Even when Michael was talking to Pastor Cal, talking about his new job, it was one of the jobs that we had never heard so far. He had like various options for work, and it was something that we had never heard. Now, do we know everything going on behind the scenes? No, but it's kind of like, okay, Michael, we really don't know what to believe. On Michael's flip side, I don't like that he's using his adoption as a crutch. Well, you know, I've been adopted, so it takes me a while to trust people. So you just lie? And I just don't like when people are aware of their issues and then they use that to validate bad behavior. There's no need to just be a liar who lies just because. And Michael just speaks in circles. He doesn't look at her when he's talking to her. There's just a lot of untrustworthy body language about him. Like, he's not even comfortable within himself. He's trying, though, you know, he is trying in the terms of you know, continuing to be there, continuing to evoke some sort of dialogue, doing the things that she likes. So he's not all bad. It's just, I just don't think that they're really built for this, or really built for each other. And he has to deal with his issues. If his issues of being abandoned and adopted are that grave right now, and he hasn't worked through them, then he needs to work through them before he gets married, because this is how well, he's married, but he would have needed to work through them before he has gotten married, because this is how he shows up in a marriage. And it's not just because it's Married at First Sight. He would have shown up anyway. And Meka brought up a good concern about him, and I agree with her. She's like, I'm not even sure that he knows how to not lie, how to not embellish. Like, and when people are accustomed to embellishing the truth, they don't realize that they're doing it. And so being honest, which is something that is so simple, is very difficult for them. So I see concerns on both sides. They're still in the game, because at this point this season, that's what it feels like for me. So we'll see. That's Michael and Meka. Next we have Brandon and Taylor. I don't know why I saw Brandon and Taylor on my screen this week. I was incredibly disappointed, because what are they still doing here? With a lot of coaching. And here's the thing, the amount of work that Pastor Cal and Dr. Viviana did in coaching the two of them to really recommit or stay in the marriage should have been happening. These interventions should have been happening before, like right after Panama, right after the video, all of these things. And I know it's TV. Listen, the experts are not therapists. They're experts. Some of them have therapy background. Like Dr. Viviana, she does family and something else. She has a legitimate therapy background. Dr. Pepper, I don't think she does therapy anymore. She may have at one point, but I think she teaches. Pastor Cal is not a therapist. He is a pastor. He's counseled people for sure in a different, with a different perspective, but it's not therapeutic. And even if they were all therapists, the way that they operate on this show, their job is to be experts that create that bond and help coach them, help guide them, but they don't provide therapy. So I know we've all been frustrated about, they're not doing this, they're not doing that. A, they're not all qualified to do that. And B, that's not what they're meant to do. It's like, if I was on there, if they, you know, and I've gotten a lot of people telling me that my therapeutic style may not be reflected because they want me to be an expert. They may not want me to do therapy with them. I definitely think they need to have a therapist, like a sidebar, like a fourth person, conducting like therapeutic sessions and then passing them on to the experts, something more. Because maybe it wouldn't have gotten that far with Brandon and Taylor. They both have issues. Brandon is more willing to, let's say, apologize and move past stuff a little bit quicker. I think he's holding on to this situation with the video, but the video, here's the thing why the video was more damaging to me than Brandon's. And Brandon's, I was no hold bars with Brandon, but Brandon is explosive and unable to control his emotions, but Taylor's a little more malicious, and she's refusing to acknowledge wrong, and you can't move on. Like, they hugged at the end of this awkward conversation after meeting with Pastor Cal and Dr. Viviana and talking about the things that they needed in order to make this relationship work and to say yes. They're so far from even making the relationship work, more or less a yes on decision day. And they get together. Taylor still's not giving an apology, which really irritates me. Taylor's wig looks like the marriage. If we saw it at the beginning of the season, It was fresh. I've never cared for it, but it was fresh. That wig has been through it, okay? And when she was sitting there with Dr. Viviana, I was like, my husband was like shaking his head and laughing at me, but I said, that wig looks like this marriage. It is on its last leg, okay? And it has been through it. Throw it away. And I'm not a throw it away type of marriage person, but we also have to remember that this is an experiment, and when we just continue to do damage like over and over at the beginning, how significant can this be for these people? Is it going to be more harmful than it is beneficial? And we want to make sure, because I see some comments where it's like, oh, don't just throw things away. It's not about throwing things away, it's about protecting people, because beyond the marriage there is people in the marriage. And so how much damage is this doing? Are people here for the right reasons? Is this person gonna be safe to this other person? I remember, like, after season 2 or 3, I can't recall, but it came out that one of the contestants had to get a restraining order on the other one because they felt unsafe. Like, these are real people, okay? Everybody is not checking all the boxes and dotting I's and crossing T's, and you have to be careful, and you have to know that there are real people in this experiment. And so what's the most stable thing for them, but the safest thing, the most emotionally safe thing for them? And it might not be continuing a situation that continues to damage them. Brandon and Taylor, why are you guys still on TV? Why do y'all have them on TV? I know this is already filmed. Why are we seeing them for the 3rd time? Like, Brandon checked out a long time ago. Taylor is holding on to it, but I don't even know why she's holding on to it. I think she just doesn't want to fail. But I don't get any desire beyond the first few days before Panama that they really are into each other. You know, she doesn't really even seem like his type. He doesn't seem like her type. I think if they were good to each other, it could have worked out. But right now, it's just like, when they gave that hug, I'm not buying it. Not even with their money would I buy it, because it's just not, it's not authentic. I don't think they, you know, she wants to move on. Let's just move on. We've talked about this. Let's just move on. I don't think Taylor would have been okay if he did not apologize for Panama. Yes, she sits there and does not want to apologize for the video, which was intentional, which is worse, because it's intentional, and let's just move on. It's just that wall of shame, that brick wall that they're building for each other with every single thing that passes. Instead of getting rid of the brick, they just stack it. It's gonna crumble, and it's gonna fall on them, and they're not gonna make it. I don't see them making it. So that's Taylor and Brandon. I really don't know why they're drawing them out, but we'll see. Next we have Jessica and Austin. So Jessica and Austin, they continue to be great. They're happy with each other. Of course they recommitted, and I think because they're so smooth sailing, Pastor Cal and Dr. Viviana had to ask, okay, well, what would make you say no? You know, let's just pick something out of the sky, since you guys are so great together. What would make you? So now they're like finding things. My only concern for them is that Jessica may allow the love thing, him not saying I love you, to sabotage their relationship. There is nothing else. She feels it now, and she told Dr. Viviana. Dr. Viviana told her to like say that, and I'm glad she didn't, because I don't agree with that. I think that if you want to express how you feel without expectation, then do that, and that could be a beautiful thing. But Jessica would not do that. She would express how she felt, hoping that he says it back. And then if he says, it's no win, because if he says it back, well, did he only say it because I said it? Or if he doesn't say it back, now he doesn't love me. Now this beautiful experience that they're having turns into crap because she can't let it go. She just needs to be. She needs to let it go. There's a lot of people who say I love you and don't show it. Yeah, at some point you want to hear it, but you guys have known each other a month. Like, let him continue to demonstrate that he does love you. He doesn't have to say it yet. He might not be comfortable. He might not be ready. It's been 30 days. Like, I would back up if somebody told me they loved me in 30 days. Me personally, because I'm like, you haven't really even known me for real. That's my perspective. You know, other people feel differently, but like, the love thing is, like I said last week, be lovable. Don't force the love. People fall in love, you know, and long before they're ready to kind of admit it, and then you recognize I love this person, and you commit to loving this person beyond good, bad, you know, whatever. So that's the only thing that I think would get in the way. I hope she doesn't allow it to get in the way, and if she doesn't, then it'll be, you know, smooth sailing for them continuously. So that is Jessica and Austin. We have who else? Katie and Derek. Listen, Katie and Derek last night, oh my god, I could barely even watch this episode, well, their scenes, because it was just talk about sabotage, man. Oh my god, they find ways to, and really she triggers ways to sabotage what they have going. And before she even said what she said, I said out loud to my husband, because my husband was like, I can't believe she's not supporting his dreams. That's like the biggest thing for a man, you know, which is one of the biggest things for men. Katie is just insecure, and I said she's insecure because she already feels like she is last on this list, and all of these dreams feel more important to her. So she does not feel like she has a secure spot, and the more dreams that he has, the further to the back of the line she feels. And so she's disposable. That is where all of this chaos is coming from for her. And basically that's what she said. I mean, it all comes out that she feels like all these things are more important. Listen, just from a woman's perspective, men do need a lot of support, okay? And secret for women, you don't have to necessarily think they're gonna do it. You don't have to necessarily agree with it. It's about supporting them in what they want, and they really, really appreciate it, because where women go to get support from friends, men often go to get support from their woman. Like, that's the person that they are often the most vulnerable with, where we have learned to go to be, and you are vulnerable with your man, but where we are vulnerable with our girlfriends, guys don't do that. Not as often, you know, they will come to you first. So just key thing here for people who are married, or people in long-term relationships, or people who are dating, women who are dating, like, listen, it's really important to just be supportive, not to a point where it's damaging or detrimental, but you don't have to be into everything. If he wants to be an astronaut, help him make a foil suit. You can think it's stupid the whole time, because here's the thing, life will turn responsibilities to the point where some of those dreams are just going to fizzle out, because they're just not going to have room for the life that you're creating. Some of those dreams are going to change, because as people change and they grow and they find different things, there are new dreams that are there. He has not experienced a life outside of himself, with the exception of 30 Days with Her, where his dreams would change. Maybe when they they're married, but as they have children, then his dreams might change to be different things, and some of them might stay the same. She just needs to, like, relax, because she's really, really negative. You don't have to agree with all of them, and even if some of them are kind of corny, roll with it. Let him write the Christmas song. Like, why are you so upset? But then the therapist part of me is like, she's insecure, so she's spinning out of control, because everything, a Christmas song, a backpacking trip, a tree house, he's not gonna build that tree house, okay? All of that comes before her, and so that's what she was like begging for him to say. But it's too much. It's like she's demanding so much of him, and he can't even give that. He can't give that. He's never had to give it, but he's trying. He's trying, and he's getting frustrated, and the way that she is coming off is really unattractive. It's really, really, it's suffocating, you know? And I love that when they got to a point where he says, you know, she says, just say I want you, and he says, I want you and your dreams too. That is important. When you get married, that stuff doesn't go out of the window. It's important to maintain that some sense of individuality, okay? Like, it's important to have that, because you are still a person who has desires and things that you love and things that you want to do, and it's important to be supported on each end. Like, it's important to have interests together and interests separately, and to support each other, not to be like some of the rest of the world. The rest of the world can be, you know, suffocating and negative and unsupportive, and you're supposed to get that from your spouse. So do that, both men and women, because some men struggle with supporting their women doing certain things, or they might feel inadequate because their woman is doing a bunch of stuff. Like, no, everybody has to be supportive. I don't have to tell you that you're not going to be an astronaut. If my husband said that today, I'd be like, okay, get the foil down. Yeah, I think it's stupid. I'm not going to say that, because guess what? It'll fizzle out. Some of this stuff just fizzles out. Okay, and when I come up with outlandish things, he's like, okay, babe. And then sometimes I'm like, I'm not going to do that. Let that person get to that point. Do not crap on it for them, because now it's not about the fact that maybe some of it is quite unrealistic. But it's about your lack of support, and that fizzles into all areas of the marriage, okay? And it breeds resentment. So don't do that. You know, she needs to chill out, because to me, she's presenting in a very unlovable way. Why would he want to fall in love with this? Because in my mind, I'm like, okay, if I were him, I'd say, oh, okay, if I continue this with her, she's not going to stop me from doing everything I want to do. No one wants that. No man, no woman, nobody wants that. So they were able to clean it up, but once again, they're quite the roller coaster too, because once she gets settled in one area, then it circles back and she gets crazy about something else. And she really lacks a lot of self-awareness, and it bothers me because she's an alleged mental health professional. And here's the thing, the beauty about therapy or any type of mental health professional is, like, they have a perspective externally that you can't see because you're in it. So it's not to say that if I have something going on, I'm completely clear-minded, because guess what? I'm emotionally consumed by it. So, you know, if my sister, like I was talking to my sister this week, and she told me something because I was spinning about something, and she can see it differently because she's outside and I'm emotionally pulled into it. However, your girl has way more self-awareness than the average bear, okay? And Katie is not demonstrating any of that. She's just carrying her baggage and flinging it around the room of this relationship, and it will crush the relationship, and it'll get to a point where he can't fall in love with her, not because he has a time frame on it, but because she's putting a lot of obstacles in the way, and creating it a more scary environment rather than an inviting environment. You know, he has his issues too, but this episode really, she really was the culprit. So I don't know, we'll see. Well, I mean, they have a lot of issues, because it's just been rearing its ugly head. They have a lot of issues. I think on Unfiltered, she had mentioned not being as attracted to him as she once was because he overshares, and that's a lot too. That's gross. Like, the oversharing so early on when you haven't really established an emotional connection. So they have areas to work on. When he gets frustrated, you know, he goes a little off the deep end and gets disrespectful. I mean, they have stuff to work on, but like, it's all stuff that's doable if they can work through it and then move on, not bring it back again or find another reason to bring it back. So that is Katie and Derek. Last but not least, we have Mindy and Zach. Once again, I don't know. I do know. Mindy and Zach don't need to be together. Zach does not want to be with Mindy. The end. That's it. I mean, they had their conversations with Pastor Cal. I love Pastor Cal doing these conversations with, like, some of these couples, like Mindy and Zach and Brandon and Taylor, because you can tell he is, like, really fighting the urge to say something unpastor-like, but he keeps his cool. You know, he takes off them glasses 100 times, and he has, like, the best facial expressions, because it's like a WTF most of the time on his face. And I don't blame him, because what are we doing with Mindy and Zach? Zach does not want to be with Mindy. We brushed past the Lindsay situation with her trash friend who was talking behind her back, God knows what. They both have deleted their messages. No one can get the real story on that. And Mindy tries to move on. And I love that Dr. Viviana said, okay, what are these things? Let's push for demands for, here are these non-negotiables. She did 3 of the 4, you know. The 4th one was moving in. He weasels his way out of really moving in, comes to spend the night. She's so excited that her husband, they haven't spent the night together since the honeymoon. She's so excited that her husband is finally spending the night. The gotcha is that as she's getting ready and she's so happy and they do their nighttime routine, he says, I'm gonna go to the other room. Which is such a coward move, because why are you moving in? One. And why would you spend this whole night going through the motions and then at the end of the day say that right before bed? Why not say, okay, I'm not ready to move in, but I do want to meet you halfway. I'm gonna come, but I'm gonna spend the night in the other room. Like, man up and say what you need to say. No, he won't say it because he wants to be Mr. Nice Guy, doesn't want to hurt her feelings. But then it's more of a sucker punch at the end when she's thinking you're gonna get into bed and you go to the other room and close the door. This is, to me, like, more, the whole situation is more like emotionally abusive for Mindy than it is anything else. Why are you still on there? And what was interesting for me is hearing that outside of filming they don't spend time together. So think about it. Think about 24 hours in a day, 7 days a week, 8 weeks, okay? Yes, they have their times to film, but then they have like everyday life that is happening. So imagine if you only saw your spouse from 12 to 4, because that's when you said I'll film, and then you don't see them at all. I am blown, my mind is blown that he only sees her during filming. This is like bare minimum. Like, the requirements are bare minimum. And I love that Jessica was like so annoyed at that dinner and was just like, why are we giving him a pass? You know, you knew what you were getting into. She's, I don't know what's less than crumbs, but that's what she's getting. To ask to be together beyond the filming time means you're really on it just for the show, because you don't even, you're trying to build attraction and spend time together and get to know one another. You're not even doing that. So all these circles that he's been talking about the last few weeks about building on attraction, we're thinking, okay, this is what we see, and then they spend time together outside of this. He's not even doing that. They need to be done. I don't know what next week looks like because I don't watch the previews, so I don't want it to influence what I say for each review, but I'm sure they're gonna drag it out. But like, Mindy and Zach need to be done. Like, you know, she said, because Dr. Viviana said, okay, if he doesn't meet these things, are you willing to walk away? And she said yes, like vehemently yes. She did not do that, because he moved in, but he didn't move in. He came to spend the night. He came with a backpack. Like, it's just disrespectful, and it's gone on too long. I don't want to see them anymore, because it's just not what it's supposed to be, and it really just sucks for her. But the lesson here is you only get what you accept. So despite whatever reason she's keeping going, she's continuing to keep going with this, despite whatever emotion she may have, like, you get what you accept. Walk away, girl, because I'm getting to a point where I'm gonna stop feeling bad for her, because you laid out the things, it's halfway over, he didn't meet it. What else do you need? I don't want to see in 8 weeks that you're crying about it not having worked out when it hasn't worked out in 8 weeks. At some point you have to be accountable with how you respond to that. Otherwise, you are now responsible for part of that situation. It's not just him anymore. And that's like a tough pill to swallow, because most people don't want to hear that. Most people like to point the finger and say, this happened to me. Well, I'm going to ask you, what part did you play in it continuing to happen to you? You know. And that's for her own good, because I want better for her. But, you know, people wanting better for you is not as significant as you wanting better for yourself. So that's how I'll end it, okay? As always, don't forget to subscribe, comment, and like. Let me know what you guys thought about last night's episode. And once again, I hope everybody's staying safe and as secluded as you could possibly be, if that's available to you. And I'll see you guys next week. Everyone have a great week.